Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.
Hello and welcome to Nirmal Bang, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to all the viewers. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have with us Anish Rankawat, research analyst at Institutional Sales Desk, joining in. Anish, good morning and welcome to the show. We are back again with regards to the auto sales numbers that have trickled in for the month of September as well. Clearly, if you go to see from lockdown to now, there has been a gradual recovery that we've been seeing over the last couple of months in terms of where volumes are concerned, pretty much hinting that we are on the path to normalization in terms of sales as well. What is the trend indicating to you right now? And overall, do you think this is something which is sustainable, or is it just pent up demand that we are seeing?
So I think real September sales can be attributed to a few stories that are playing out. One is the supply chain has improved, surely. So OEMs are producing more. Secondly, if you look at the retail data, so there is a retail recovery happening, or at least registrations on Vahan indicate that month on month, surely there is an improvement, but even on year basis, the degrowth has come off, and for certain segments like tractors and especially Maruti, there's a year on year growth in registration numbers. So these two reasons, and then thirdly, before the start of the month, I think a lot of the dealer channels were at a lower inventory level.
Mhm.
So combination of this, so basically production has improved. Festivals are coming. The anticipation is festivals should be good. So OEMs are trying to fill their channel, prepare for the festivals, which I think Navratras will start second half of October. So and that Navratra, Dashera, and Diwali period. I mean, normally say two-wheelers, Hero, Honda, and all, they keep up to say 10 to 12 weeks of inventory, and PV players keep about say around 8 weeks of inventory. So I think that's what the target is right now. They're not there yet, so but they are trying to achieve that. So that is probably the major driver of what has happened in September wholesales.
Right. So, Anish, is it right to say that right now what we are seeing is mainly channel filling that is happening on the back of the upcoming festival season? And there is, however, still a disconnect between the wholesale numbers as well as the retail numbers?
So if you look at the trend, I mean, there's a V-shape recovery coming in registration, and the wholesales are following that trend, but probably the delta or the difference we are seeing is in channel filling.
Mm.
So in terms of trend, when I say trend, the month on month trend is anyways increasing, but the year on year growth that you're seeing is kind of the channel filling delta that is coming. So it's I'll say partly, but I mean if I want to give a split, say 25% would be say retail pull, and rest of the 75%, I'm talking about the growth that is coming. Rest of
Mm.
the 75 would be channel filling. So uh, uh, my sense is that before the start of the month, passenger vehicle dealers were around say 2 weeks of were having 2 weeks of inventory, and two-wheeler dealers were having about say 3 to 4 weeks of
Mm.
inventory. All of these would have increased by at least a couple of weeks for sure by the end of the month.
Right. And taking all of this into consideration, another factor that all of us are considering with regards where consumption is concerned is that it's mainly rural consumption, Anish, which is going to drive the revival of the economy, and it's not going to be the urban side. Rural economy is going to probably revive faster than the urban side. When you do your dealer checks as well, and in terms of where the retail registrations go, is this the trend also that you're witnessing where inventory stocking is something which is way higher with the rural dealers versus the urban dealers?
So, dealers normally have their main branches in the urban areas.
Hmm.
Then they have their satellite branches in the rural areas. So, what happens is about say 20 to 30% sales comes from the urban counters, and rest of it comes from the rural counters. So
Mm,
the sense is that urban counters are probably still down maybe 40 to 50%,
mm,
but the rural counters are up about say 20 to 30% in totality. So
mm.
basically, rural is still driving the most of the inventory filling or the registration data that we are seeing. So rural is still the strong point here. Urban, I would say we are in the unlock phases, and
Right.
gradually it will be improving. But I think for next, even for next few months, we will see rural driving most of the growth that we'll see.
Right. And taking all of this into consideration, let's talk about the different segments as well. If you have to talk about the consumer side of it, say passenger vehicles, two-wheelers, what is the kind of segment between the two which is driving growth right now? And how do you see it panning out? And what would you say about the September numbers that have come in for both these segments?
Right. So as a trend, I mean, there are certain fragments which are doing better in each of the segments. So in passenger vehicles, we are seeing small cars, and because Maruti is literally the only player left in small cars, I mean, barring a few models from Hyundai, which are not doing that well. So we are seeing a strong demand coming from the compact segment. I'm talking about the sub 4 meter, all the hatchbacks and the sedans that come under it. So those are doing well for sure. Secondly, the SUV segment now, I think customers are spoiled by choice. We have I think the competition is enormous in the sub or the compact SUV segment, the sub meters. We've got a few more additions in last month or so. We've got the urban cruiser and the Kia Sonet also coming. So that segment,
Mm,
plus the Creta and the Seltos segment. So mid and small SUV segment is seeing tremendous demand, and that's purely because the choices have increased. A lot more OEMs and a lot more exciting products have been coming. So I think these two segments in PVs have been doing particularly well. The next in two-wheelers will, I mean, still because rural is driving the demand, motorcycles are doing better, and moped. I mean, all those the it's a very small segment of two-wheelers, but it's also seeing pickup, and it's again a rural product.
mm.
Scooters is purely an urban product, and we are still seeing pressure in the scooter segment. So clearly, I mean, the rural urban demand, the disconnect or the split can be seen in the fragments of these two larger segments as well.
Right. So between passenger vehicles as well as two-wheelers, uh, which companies would you place your bets on which are reviving faster than the other?
Right. So I mean, the first name when you talk about passenger vehicles
Hmm,
is surely Maruti,
correct.
and I think the numbers have exceeded the
Hmm,
expectations, and we can see similar trends for next couple of months as well. So surely Maruti is looking better. I mean, anyways the only pure play passenger vehicle listed name, anyways. But so I mean, the benchmark again in terms of valuations is anybody's. I mean, it depends on anyone's prerogative. But I think the stock is expensive for a reason, and it's been giving reasons every month now. So
hmm,
I think that should be driving the stock going forward as well in the medium term. In two-wheelers, we have Hero. I think its portfolio is favorable for the rural demand, and the down trading that we are seeing. So a lot of the personal mobility is coming into commuter segments, and Hero has got the right products in it. So Hero becomes the top pick. But the second company in two-wheelers which is doing well is Bajaj Auto, and
hmm,
the main reason is that its exports are doing tremendously good.
hmm,
And September volumes, the export volumes are actually the best ever volumes that it has given out in terms of wholesale. So I think
hmm,
that again is another name one should look out for. Uh, once the three-wheelers come into, picture, when you see revival happening, Bajaj Auto will be even more favored. So that one segment which makes about, say, 25 to 30% of its business is still dragging, but it's getting compensated by high demand in motorcycles in domestic and high demand in the export segments. So I think these are the names that one should keep in mind.
Right. So we've spoken about passenger vehicles, two-wheelers, as well as the three-wheeler segment. What's the sense that you pick up with regards to tractors? Because tractors is something which has continued to remain strong on the back of the resilience that rural India did show in times of COVID. Do you think this is something which is expected to continue because there has been a good monsoon? Plus, if you talk about where the government support is concerned, that's something which has been extended as well.
I think you've hit the right spot. I think uh, monsoons have been good, water levels have been good, production have been good. Farmers are having cash in hand
Mm,
because of government procurements and all the regulations that are supporting the rural side of the economy. I think this should sustain the tractor demand going forward as well. And if you look at the latest estimates or revisions coming from, say, CRISIL or ICRA, they've actually revised it upwards for the whole segment for this year. And,
mm,
and the expectation is about, say, 9 to 11% of growth for the year. That brings us to the peak of FY19 numbers. But
okay.
going forward as well, I think the circumstances are favorable enough for us to see a sustainable growth of about, say, 8% or so, which has been the long-term trend in tractors anyways. So
Mm,
that should continue for next couple of years as well,
mm.
in my sense. I mean, there are enough reasons for that. So I think tractors should go strong unless and until we see something unexpected happening in the rural side. Other than that, I think this segment should do well. So M&M and Escorts, I think, are the players to
Right.
play
So
with.
between an M&M and Escorts, Anish, what would your bets be on? Because again, if you talk about M&M as well, you have to consider the other segments of business as well. So, if you have to be based on a SOTP valuation basis, what would your bets be between the two?
See, Escorts is only farm equipment.
Mm,
So because we are talking about tractors,
correct.
Escorts becomes the first player. But then it's expensive as well. I
Mm,
mean, investors hop onto the stock with every opportunity that they get. So, I mean, in terms of valuations, M&M is cheaper. Now, why M&M could be favored over Escorts is, in totality, certain things are happening which are favorable. Firstly, if you look at its listed entries, if you look at the price, it's about, say, 610, 620, somewhere around that, 610 or 20. Now, if you look at the SOTP, about, say, 190 rupees comes from its listed entities itself.
mm,
Um, with its cash and investment positions, another, say, 60, 70 rupees comes in. So 250
mm,
rupees is purely from the non-core business. Now, out of the core business, 60% comes from 60% of the profits comes from tractor segment.
mm,
I mean, with the tractor segment doing better this year, I'm expecting for the core segment, the contribution of tractors to be around, say, upwards of 70, 75%.
mm,
Now, in that case, what happens is your profitability improves
correct.
because tractor segment has better EBIT margins, better operating margins versus the other. So what happens is, in on a trailing basis itself, we can come to a price which is where it's trading right now. Now, in the auto segment, what is happening is Bolero is doing well, and we are expecting a couple of new products like Scorpio and XUV 500. We're expecting a refresh or actually a completely new product in that model coming, which should drive the growth in say next year and the year after. So this will be an added you can say added segment which can be added to the price. So from here on, I mean, I think the upside for M&M looks better than Escorts.
Right. And very lastly, if you have to talk about the CV segment as well, that's something that was really languishing since the lockdown to now, taking into consideration supply chain was a concern as well. How are you seeing the trend now? Because there has been a significant recovery that we've seen in the month of September. So, number one, how is the trend now looking like? And secondly, if you have to select between a Tata Motors, a Ashok Leyland, or probably even a Eicher taking VECV into consideration, where would your bets be? Taking all aspects on the back of valuations also into consideration.
So talking about CVs, I think September has been a month where you see some reduction in the degrowth that has
Correct.
we've been seeing. And there are two things. One is obviously a gradual recovery that can be seen. That's an inherent recovery
Mm,
that we can see with the economy also reviving
mm,
slowly and steadily. But second is the base. I mean, base is probably at the lowest level that we are looking at. So on that base, we are seeing surely that LCVs have grown for certain players. So M&M pickup trucks, that segment was up about say 4%. For even Ashok Leyland, the LCV segment was up significantly. I think 15, 16%.
mm,
So that segment is picking up. For the rest of the segment, like MHCVs, we are seeing about say a high single digit kind of a degrowth, which is
mm,
way better than what we've been seeing in last few months. And again, the base is the main reason. But as economy revives, we should see CVs also reviving, and I think the worst is behind us. So we are probably on the other side of the cycle right now. So that should be favorable for the names that you've been taking. I mean,
mm,
Ashok Leyland, Tata Motors, and VECV. And if you look at the stocks, I mean, Ashok Leyland is one which has complete exposure, or its revenue is exposed to CV altogether. So that becomes a pure play CV play. And I
mm.
think with the cycle, I mean, the low or the trough behind us, this becomes a cycle play where whenever there's an upcycle, we see at least 3 years of upcycle where
Mm.
volumes are up about say 15 to 20% CAGR. On that basis, I think the stock should be trading at least at its average valuations for last say
Mm.
5 8 years. And with that prospect, it clearly should be favored versus the others. Now, Tata Motors, I think, I mean, CV segment makes only about say 20 to 30% of its price and profitability. So again, it's not a pure play CV, but again, whenever we see revival in CV, that contribution increases. So that should be the second name, and VCV. I mean, in terms of the overall picture of Eicher Motors, VCV role is less than 10% in the price. So I don't see it to be a CV play. I see Eicher as more of a Royal Enfield play.
Absolutely, and I think absolutely, as you're saying that yes, it's more of a RE play in terms of Aisha Motors is concerned. But here on, I think if this recovery is sustainable, that's something which is going to be good for the economy as a whole as well. But thank you, Anish, so much for joining us on the show and breaking down the numbers for us with regards to where September is concerned and how the trend is looking like for the individual segments. Thank you so much for being there and stay safe.
Thank you for having me.